He's one of the world's richest men and owns SpaceX, Tesla, and Twitter. So when Elon Musk
overestimates himself.
What do you think of Elon Musk's behavior as a CEO?
I think it has room for improvement.
Although I strongly do support the goals and ideals of commercial access to space, the folks who propose such a limited architecture do not yet know what they don't know.
Having cut my teeth in rockets more than 50 years ago, I am not confident.
Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here, and I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
– 2008 was brutal. We had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon 1 rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise. And I got divorced. That was like rough. Man, feminine scar tissue there.
There's been many times where I expected to lose everything. Who starts a car company and a rocket company expecting them to succeed? Certainly not me. I thought they both had less than a 10% chance of success. And frankly, I wasn't wrong in that in 2008, we had the third failure of SpaceX, and if the fourth launch had failed, SpaceX would be dead. We had no money for a fifth launch. And for Tesla, Tesla's been on the verge of bankruptcy many times. We closed the financing round in 2008, because remember, at the end of 2008, General Motors and Chrysler were going bankrupt, and Ford was almost bankrupt. So imagine trying to raise money for an electric car startup while General Motors is going bankrupt. And people were angry that I even asked, but we were able to just barely raise enough money to squeak by and close the financing round for Tesla on the last hour of the last day that it was possible in Christmas Eve 2008. And if we had not closed that financing round then, it would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas.
If things had just gone a little bit the other way, both companies would be dead. Like one of the most difficult choices I have ever faced in life was in 2008. And I think I had $30 or $40 million left, and I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, then the other company would definitely die, or split it between the two companies. But if I split it between the two companies, then both might die. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, it's like a child. Am I gonna let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the two.
Space is hard, and rockets tend to fail, unfortunately. And even when you've got like a lot of really smart people working super hard to minimize the probability of failure, it's still there, and it's quite significant.
So the best analogy for rocket engineering is if you want to create a really complicated bit of software, you can't run the software as an integrated whole, and you can't run it on the computer it's intended to run on. But the first time you put it all together and run it on that computer, it must run with no bugs. That's basically the essence of it.
I tried very hard to get the right expertise for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket. The good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
What keeps you up at night?
Well, it's quite hard to run companies, especially car companies, I would say. It's quite challenging. Not that SpaceX is no walk in the park, but a car company, it's very difficult to keep a car company alive. It's very difficult. You know, there's only 2 car companies in the history of American car companies that haven't gone bankrupt, and that's Ford and Tesla.
We basically messed up almost every aspect of the Model 3 production line, from cells to packs to drive inverters, motors, body line, the paint shop, final assembly, everything. Everything was messed up. And I lived in I lived in the Fremont and Nevada factories for 3 years, fixing that production line, running around like a maniac through every part of that factory, living with the team. I slept on the floor so that the team who was going through a hard time could see me on the floor. They knew that I was not in some ivory tower. Whatever pain they experienced, I had it more. I mean, there wasn't any other way to make it work. There were 3 years of hell, 2017, 18, and 19. It was the longest period of excruciating pain in my life. There wasn't any other way, and we barely made it, and we were on the ragged edge of bankruptcy the entire time. So much pain. It had to be done, or Tesla would be dead.
I feel fear quite strongly, but if what we're doing is
if what I'm doing I think is important enough, then I just override the fear. But it's not as though I feel like more strongly than I would like. If the stakes are high, if it's really important, then I will overcome the fear and just do it anyway. Drive overrides fear. When I feel the fear, it's kind of annoying. I wish I felt it less.
What drives you on a day-to-day basis to do what you do?
I really want to make sure that there is a good future for humanity and that we're on a path to understanding the nature of the universe, the meaning of life, why are we here, how do we get here. In order to understand the nature of the universe and all these fundamental questions, we must expand the scope and scale of consciousness. I would say I'm motivated by curiosity more than anything and just a desire to think about the future and not be sad.
I think I'm kind of constitutionally just geared to just keep going. Certainly there are times when things don't go well, and then that's quite dispiriting, for sure. Then it's difficult to proceed with the same level of enthusiasm. But I do think the things that we're doing are pretty important to the future, and if we don't succeed, then we will be certainly pointed to as a reason why people shouldn't even try for these things. So I think it's important that we do whatever is necessary to keep going. A source of strength. That's really not how I think about things. I mean, for me, it's simply this is something that is important to get done, and we should just keep doing it or die trying. I don't need a source of strength. It's not in my nature, and I don't care about optimism or pessimism that we're going to get it done. Depending on how well you want to do, and particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. What does super hard mean? Well, when my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hard up we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. And I sort of briefly had a girlfriend in that period, and in order to be with me, she'd have to sleep in the office. So work hard like every waking hour. Just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. If other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
Where do you sleep tonight?
Tonight it's in the factory.
In the factory, not in a hotel.
Well, technically in a conference room in the factory, but yeah.
You sleep in a conference room in the not finished factory tonight?
Yeah, it gives me a good feel for what's going on.
Alone or?
Yeah, I assume so.
I should point out that a 20-hour workday is relatively unusual and rather painful, but I do sleep 6 hours a night, and if I sleep less than 6 hours a night, I find that I might be awake longer, but I get less done. I do work a ridiculous amount, I think, relative to most people, in that it's pretty much 7 days a week, and mostly from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. I'm not suggesting this is good for everyone, and I think, frankly, I would like to work a bit less than that.
The thing that is actually more difficult, and that does make sleeping difficult, is that every good hour or even minute of thinking about Tesla and SpaceX has such a big effect on the company that I really try to work as much as possible to the edge of sanity, basically, because Tesla's getting to the point where every high quality minute of thinking is $1 million impact on Tesla. Which is insane. There are many instances where I was able to improve the financial outcome of the company by $100 million in a half-hour meeting.
Electric cars were considered extremely impossible and stupid. You're a fraud. Like, okay. You can drive that fraud. And then now, things have changed. Yeah. The goal of Tesla was literally this, is like, to what degree, in fact, when we created it, we're like, okay, the fundamental historic good of Tesla should be measured by the degree to which we accelerate the advent of sustainable energy and transport. And our goal all along has been to try to get the rest of the car industry to go electric. We did a joint venture thing with Toyota and with Mercedes. We open sourced our patents 3 or 4 years ago, made them freely available. So it's extremely rewarding to see that the rest of the industry is going electric. This is great. The goal with Tesla was really to try to show what electric cars can do, because people had the wrong impression. We had to change people's perception of an electric vehicle, because they used to think of it as something that was slow and ugly and had low range, kind of like a golf cart. So that's why we created the Tesla Roadster, to show that you can be fast
attractive, and long range.
When we first unveiled the Roadster in 2007, they just said, well, you're basically a bunch of fools. Well, I mean, generally they would say like, well, starting a car company is crazy. You're going to lose all your money. I was like, I think I probably will lose all my money. I agree. It wasn't like I thought it would be successful. I thought we had maybe a 10% chance of success. So then people would say it's going to fail and we're going to lose everything. I was like, yeah, probably true. What else is new?
I think we want to obviously do our absolute best to ensure that the future is good for everyone's children. The future is something that you can look forward to and not feel sad about. You know, you want to get up in the morning and be excited about the future, and we should fight for the things that make us excited about the future. You know, the future cannot just be about one miserable thing after another, solving one sad problem after another. There got to be things that get you excited, like you want to live. These things are very important. We should have more of it.
I would be happy if humanity has a self-sustaining city on Mars, because then the probable lifespan of humanity is much greater. We really just got this little candle of consciousness, a small light in the void, and we don't want that small candle in a vast darkness to be put out.
If there are two futures, and one future is we're out there among the stars, and the things we read about and see in science fiction movies, the good ones, are true. We have these starships, and we're going to see what other planets are like, and we're a multi-planet species, and the scope and scale of consciousness is expanded across many civilizations and many planets and many star systems. This is a great future. This is a wonderful thing to me, and that's what we should strive for.
Now is the time to take risk. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it. You guys are the magicians of the 21st century. You know, don't let anything hold you back. Imagination is the limit. And go out there and create some magic.
If you want the future to be good, you must make it so. Take action to make it good, and it will be.